We can start our meeting. Today
Excellent.
is August 4th. A meeting of the Berlin Historical Commission. And we'll take attendance. Barry
Present.
and Janet
Here, present.
and June present, and Dan Barton is with us today to help us with a master plan for the Bullard House.
We want to talk up just a little bit.
Can you hear me okay?
Just fine.
Yeah, I
Okay.
can hear you too.
Okay. All righty. Dan, you want to start us out or?
Sure. I mean, I have nothing new to present. I mean, I believe our goal today is that we gave you folks some time with the initial document that I put together so that you could wrap your arms around it and think it through and modify, make comments, ask questions, and what have you. So I know I sent it out the evening, immediately following our meeting, and hoping that you've all had some, had an ability to spend some time with it and think about it. And I'm hoping to just talk that through today.
The commission met on the 25th, which was soon after we met. Was it a week after?
Right.
Well, anyway, and I wrote a little email to the three of us
Yeah.
with the things that we agreed that we would try to do for today. And first of all, we addressed the 4 themes that you suggested for the vision statement.
Mm-hmm.
Barry has drafted a statement for accessibility that we could include, or part of it that we could include. I worked on funding and staffing. And then we thought together we would address integrating the Bullard House with the village.
Mm-hmm.
So that the museum is really, so that the village is an extension of the museum and
Vice versa.
or it's a whole.
Right. I guess starting at the high level for a second, at the 10,000 foot level, is the way that I approached it and started documenting what I think we need to do moving forward. Is that making sense and feeling good to everyone?
Yes, to me,
Okay.
yes, yeah.
Barry, Janet?
Yeah, I
That's
think,
fine.
I think that I was almost looking at the wait a minute, the project vision along with these 4 things, as it seemed like I wasn't quite sure what the difference was in the way we talk and plan it. So, for example, exterior improvements felt to me like another one of those topics that we have to deal with, even if it wasn't one of the 4. And so I think we talked a little bit about that too, and assigned tasks for those things as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? Or are they supposed to be looked at in 2 distinct ways?
Well, I
What were
guess
the-
go ahead, June.
What were the tasks
Um,
for project vision, which were different from the 4 themes?
I don't know, maybe that's right. Exterior improvements, interior improvements, accessibility, and responsible design approach were the 4 parts of that one.
Mm-hmm.
Different from the other 4, but I don't know if don't they all get dealt with in somewhat the same way, or no?
Oh, okay. She's talking about that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, they're all part of the whole, and each one gets dealt with in whatever is the most effective path and process to make decisions and come up with a solution that fits the mission and vision for the Bullard House as a whole. So do you all have a marked up copy of my document?
Yeah, I do.
I
Okay.
I don't know if
have
it's
the
something,
document.
is it something that we can share on the screen?
I don't think mine is.
My
Mine's not
temptation on
complete.
exterior improvements, we have building materials not allowed, include anything, blah, blah, plastic, vinyl.
Yeah,
I would add the word visible at the beginning,
sure.
because needless to say, sometimes there's Tyvek or some other modern materials used
Okay, so
out of
let
sight.
me just ask a procedural question for Sec Barry. Pardon me for a second to cut you off. Does it make sense for me to open up the document and for us to make notes and changes in my copy? Or did you all do that? Because I know that, I think from the last meeting, I gave you both a PDF and a Word file so that you'd have some ability to go in and edit on your own.
Yeah, we can work on that.
We, I put the documents that you sent to us, I put those in the Dropbox.
Okay,
And we can, I just did that the other day. We can edit documents in the Dropbox. Is that, see, the Dropbox issue is new to me, so I'm learning,
yeah,
but we can edit documents in the Dropbox, I believe.
sure. I
Right.
mean,
I
But-
like the idea, Dan, of your putting one up and just letting us each hear what each other put down as comments on that and on the other four things that we talked about. Is that a waste of time to others, or is that helpful? And it gives us a chance to have a little discussion.
I don't know what she's talking about.
yeah, I'm happy to call up my copy of it unless, so it sounds to me as though no one has put any comments yet into the documents I sent.
No, we just wrote our, well, Barry and I sent each other what we had for the funding, the staffing, and the accessibility.
Okay.
And
Okay,
those
so-
went to Janet.
Keep on
too.
going, June, and I didn't mean to
But
cut you off.
yeah, I think if you put it up, that would be good.
Okay. All right, bear with me a moment. Okay, so
I have actually written a attachment for the minutes of our meeting that we had on the 25th. And that might be helpful because they're short, but I didn't want to
Sure.
put them in minutes because it made the minutes too long. But I did sort of take notes on what we said when we talked about them. And I don't know if that would be helpful to hear those.
sure.
Essentially, it's like minutes only, seemed like a little too much to throw into just the regular minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if June and Barry feel that would be helpful. It should sound familiar, what I've written.
I say go for it, Janet.
Okay. So if we're looking at accessibility, and make corrections, guys, if I didn't get our thoughts the right way. In discussing accessibility, we acknowledge that accessibility on the second floor would be very challenging, even with a lift, because of narrow doorways and halls and uneven floors. Our current thought is to seek an ADA waiver and begin making all parts of the house more accessible with the use of media such as video, walkthroughs, artifacts, still photos, storytelling, etc. Barry will collect ideas for expanding accessibility, which it sounds like he did.
Barry has written a draft for addressing the accessibility in the vision statement.
Well, I've added a little to it. I don't know. It's a little bit of what we've already done, and I'm not sure that's appropriate. The
So-
second floor accessibility is a serious problem.
Correct.
There's no doorways up there that work. There are a variety of other features that enter into this, including the hallway isn't even wide enough.
Mhm.
I don't I don't have much hope that we're ever going to make the second floor accessible. And if we did, we'd have to do an awful lot of modifications that would get into the historical side of it rather substantially.
Right.
I
So,
think that's going to be a waiver situation with when we have exhibits and things and program exhibit things upstairs, we will just have to do photographs and or a videotape or something that will be available downstairs for people to look at.
mhm. Yeah, so there's two choices, obviously. One is you don't let the public go to the second floor. And like you said, you use photographs, videos, what have you on the first floor where it is accessible to be able to, get access to that visual. The other thing is, we file a waiver and we get permission to use the second floor, given the uniqueness and historical authenticity of the building. And there are some people that are just not able to get there. And we come up with an alternative and that's probably a fairly realistic approach, because I think we talked about putting in a lift or an elevator is, while it might be something that you can do down the road, and if the building expands, it's not in the cards right now. What we need to be careful of is that depending upon where we get money from, if we're getting money from certain types of grants, we have to see if it kicks us into any accessibility requirement beyond the Massachusetts Architectural Access Board. I think going through the Architectural Access Board and getting a waiver for this building will actually be fairly straightforward, especially when we show what we are doing that's accessible. I have a feeling that we may be looking for some waivers on the first floor too. I just don't know what they are yet.
Yes, and it would be my intent that presentations would all be done in the accessible areas of the first floor.
Correct.
And of
I
course,
don't want to get overly bogged down on accessibility. I just think it's an important item in our overall master plan to be mindful of, and to be thoughtful in our approach, as well as strategic in what we may need to ask for before we're opening the building up to the public. I also believe it's important for marketing and communication purposes for everyone to be on the same page. We value accessibility. We want to make it as accessible as possible. We also want to be realistic. And what we're planning for in the near term is potentially looks a little bit different than what may happen in the long term. But I was envisioning that part of the site outside was also accessible, and that's how we're getting into the building. So there could be some programming and some activities around Bullard House that happen outdoors that people would be able to get to. We just have to see how that works, right? So I wanted to set our values around accessibility so that we could start doing some design work towards those values and consistent with those values. Make sense?
Yes.
when the history of the project is done, I'm stabbing at that, but I've got a long way to go. The document that I had it before is really not organized the way that this should be. So I'm working on it. One of the things I want to include in it, I will be including in it, is that we hired an architect early in the game and paid him about $3,000 to design accessibility into the building and the ramp between the two parts of the first floor and so forth. And that was an early priority, and that will show up very clearly in that history document in terms of our
do we have those
long-term
plans?
concern about this.
Where are those plans, Barry?
Where are the architectural plans that he did?
Yeah.
We've got them in the house. I suppose we should. I don't think I have an electronic copy of that.
We can scan, are they huge?
Well, yeah, they're
Well,
good size.
Are they
Marty
large
could shoot
plan
them.
sheets?
Yeah, we can shoot them and get them into the Dropbox.
Okay, so if whatever large plans that we have that would be useful, or to get into a electronic format, why don't we assemble them? And then if somebody could drop, and we will make arrangements ahead of time, but if somebody could drop them off at my office at Harvard, I'll have somebody scan them large format
Oh, that would be.
and turn them into PDF. No one needs to pay for that. That's something that, you know, we've got the equipment to do very easily. I can't, when I scan large format, I can only go up to 11 by 17 in color, but I can go up to 36 inches by whatever length we want in black and white. So let's just put that on the list of things that we can do. Please don't go to any, you know, exhaustive effort on those. So if I can go back, Janet, you already made some notes on accessibility. Barry, you said you were taking it, you know, it also put some thoughts together on that. And then I also heard that on the responsible design approach that there had been a little bit of thinking.
Yes, I do have the other 4 things, the comments, I mean, the other 3 things.
But please keep on going, Janet. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and these are actually not my own personal comments. This was just a summary of what we talked about the other night.
Yeah.
So, just so you know that. And then there's sort of the synergy, I forget what you called it. You called it something else, but you know, the relationship among the different historical sites in the town center. And I said, in discussing synergy among historical sites in the town center, our understanding deepens that, and I liked this, I think, Barry, you said this, that, quote, the museum is all of these sites working together. It's not just the Bullard House. And I really liked that. I thought that's a great way of thinking of it. Each contributing a special role in the Berlin story. We've asked Barry if he could, poor Barry, he's been asked to do a lot. We asked Barry if he could reflect and write on the topic of Berlin history as part of our expanded vision. Right on this topic, the topic of how the different, of the synergy between different town center buildings.
Okay, I love that. I feel as though that piece about it all being together should be in the vision statement, the original one.
Yeah, and the Bullet House is the anchor site.
Yes, I'm going to add
Because that's
that.
our full-time place to be involved. And then we have the, I mean, the town hall in particular next door is a key to it because that's where we have larger spaces for more significant presentations.
Yeah, and also where you have a storage building.
Yes.
And then, you know, you look at the whole village common there and it all has some, you know, has significant buildings that, you know, I feel like contribute to the character and the significance of place.
Yeah.
Okay, that's 2, Janet.
All right,
3.
3. If people don't mind my doing this, because this is what's coming to you as an addendum to the minutes. So my apologies for being late with it. We've had a very, very busy time here and I just couldn't get to it till now. All right, this is funding, right? In discussing funding, Dan would like to have a timeline of what has occurred to date. Barry, that's what you were talking about earlier, including expenditures.
Yeah, the history of the project, we have some of the things that we've done in that list, but I want to also put in what we spent and what the source of the funding was. Because almost all of the funding, until about 2 years ago, all of the funding was Historical Society.
Yeah.
And it was substantial, $80,000 to $100,000. And the society also kicked in $25,000 on the purchase price when they bought the property. So that there's been private money supporting the project from the start.
Do you want me to read my little draft of what I wrote for funding?
do you want me, should I finish this part here that I was starting, or do you want to just do that and then go
Are we
back?
talking about funding or are we,
Yes.
what?
I'm talking about what we brought up at the meeting the other night about funding. But it may be
Okay.
identical to what you're going to say, so why don't you say it? And then maybe I won't have to.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah,
Okay, I'll just read it quickly.
yeah, go ahead.
The Berlin Art and Historical Society, a 501c3 organization, provides both financial support and a volunteer base for Bullard House events and projects. Members' support will be encouraged and enhanced by small programs and workshops that promote interest and appreciation for the many uses and varied residents and uses of the Bullard House. Public attendance at these venues will be encouraged and will increase awareness and participation to implement the vision. Community Preservation Act funding has been secured and will continue to be an annual source of funding for historic preservation. This funding will provide leverage for an MHCM PPF grant, which, if awarded, will provide matching funds for anticipated structural rehabilitation. And additional grant funding will be sought and planned. That's what I wrote for funding.
Sounds good.
Okay,
I think
Great.
we can be more specific in saying that we have two $100,000 grants from CPA.
Okay,
right, and that's why I wanted to have a list or spreadsheet or chart of everything that we know about financially from the get-go of acquisition of the building. And
we
I
also
understand that
had
the-
a grant from the Board of Selectmen. It was mitigation money from one of the commercial mall projects in the town that was for cultural purposes. And we had I don't know, $53,000 grant out of that too, that we're still using up.
there's about 11 grand in that.
There's about 11 grand left, but that was another significant piece of funding that came from the town, but it was a special source. It was special money.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't put that in because it's not a continuing thing, but perhaps, but it should go on the chart, definitely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think you covered it well. The one thing that I did put in here isn't about actual money we have, but we've made connections with Central Mass Regional Planning Commission, and we'll ask them to keep us posted on upcoming grants. So we have this little network that we're developing of connections, and you gave us a connection with Chris Beard.
Yeah.
And then Dan Barton, that's you. We've worked with Dan Barton. And also Jen Doherty, who works for, I don't know if you know Jen. Do you know Jen?
She works for MHC.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And she, you know, you have to, it's a little tricky probably what she can advise us on, because she is representing all people who are
Right.
connected with MHC. But I was thinking maybe putting some of that little network in that we're developing.
Absolutely.
Important. Yeah.
Right. And to that point, Janet, we should be constantly developing a contact list.
Yeah.
And we spoke about this last time because I spoke about the idea of making sure that there's some communication relative to Bullard House on a very regular basis. It's a little, did you know, here's a fun fact, here's what's going on, because it's letting people in the town who voted for giving CPA money to you, what you're doing and that you're active, and it's also getting awareness and socializing what the plan and the vision is, and it's out there all the time, and building that list and getting people's names, affiliations, right?
Yeah.
As well as their email addresses and whatever other contact information we want. If it's in a simple Excel spreadsheet, then we can sort it buy all sorts of different things. We can, we'll put a code in there for, potential funding source. And then all of a sudden, if we want to sort our list by potential funding source, we can. If we want to sort it by, everyone who's in Berlin, if we want to support all sorts of different ways. And because I was envisioning that utilizing constant contact or an email blast or whatever is going to help us at some point in the future. It could even be, I don't know, do we want to do a GoFundMe at some point? Because we've got something going on that we need some resources for. So building that database, to me is critical. And like I said, we talked about it last time. And in fact, I'm going to add it to my list here. It's probably in here somewhere, but.
That would be interesting to see what we'd all come up with, because I'm sure our connections are different.
Right.
The three of us.
But, the fact that we have somebody in town who works for MHC, I think is really significant. There are all these various connections, and it could also be that we're going to build a network of connections of contractors or skilled individuals that can help us with things. Right? Because remember, we're trying to build our donor base, but what we've also talked about is building our volunteer base, because we're trying to create something that's sustainable running into the future. And there's going to be a point in time where the three of you are passing on the torch to others to do this.
Mm-hmm.
We did, at our last meeting, we did talk about sort of under the umbrella of financial planning. We did list the kinds of things that are either already in place to network or that we need to do. And I think it didn't include a contact list, so that's that's important, and we'll get to we'll do that.
Yeah. And like I said, once it gets started, we can keep on adding to it, sort it differently.
Yeah, I think of some of the connections I have with people who worked at Sturbridge Village when I was working there. And a lot of them are my age, so it means they're retired. But some of them, I mean, one of them was the president of Historic Deerfield. He's a good friend of ours. And I'm thinking, geez, Louise, why am I not bringing these people into this?
Yeah,
Dane
Janet,
Nylander.
I don't know if I knew that you worked at Sturbridge, or if I did, I forgot. I'm just going to have to tell you that was a very important place in the life of our family.
Yes.
And we for years and years were members there. And as our son was growing up, we used to take him there all the time, and I have a lot of pictures from there.
Neat. And it changed over time.
Yeah.
They now have a school. Did you know they have a charter school?
I did not.
Yes, they have a charter school.
It's been years since I've been there.
Growing by leaps and bounds, I understand.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Wouldn't that be a great place to go to school?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, all right, and what was the fourth?
Staffing.
I'm sorry, June, I didn't hear you.
Staffing.
Oh, staffing. And you were going to work on that. I can read you my little blurb and then you can take over, or you can start, either way.
Go ahead, Janet.
Oh, okay. It is a short blurb. In discussing staffing, and again, this came right from our discussions during our meetings, we are currently using volunteer help as well as the assistance of work-off people in town. I decided not to mention numbers or anything. Using 19 Carter as a model, they worked entirely with volunteers until this year when they hired their first paid staff member. And I can't remember, I've got a blank where I said how many years is this after they opened their doors. It's been quite a few. I'll have to look that up.
It's 5.
Yeah, I just thought that was encouraging for people to realize, yeah, you may have to start with volunteers. The Bullard House will conceivably open for regular limited hours by appointment, and by appointment, at least to begin with. Staffing and outreach are intertwined, and I was going to start trying to work on outreach.
Mhm.
Because you notice my name didn't come up as a volunteer for any of these yet. So I said I'd be interested in playing with that. But I did not have a solution for that. After 2 weeks from now, I'll have solutions for everything. Things are very hectic right now at our farm, so.
Mhm. This is a little bit of a side comment or question. Is there a walking tour of Berlin, or somebody who gives cemetery tours? Are there, thinking of the synergy and it all tying together and all being part of the greater historic framework of the town?
19 Carter has a little ongoing session on Tuesdays, not every Tuesday, called History Matters.
Yeah.
And I asked Barry to do a tour, take us through the center, and that went really well. We had, I don't know, maybe 10 people that showed up for History Matters that day. And Barry's strategy was to position us on the common so that we could survey most of the center area. And that is, I think he's probably done that before, maybe not quite in the same way. But we don't have a printed version of that.
Okay. And there's no walking tour, trail, and history that's been contemplated, or?
I've
No.
thought
Not
about
as a
that.
historical tour.
Okay.
Keep in mind that Berlin is still only 3,000 people.
Yep.
And
Totally
as a
fine.
result, the regular programming of that sort is probably not practical at this point. This doesn't mean that we can't put together a brochure. We've got all the material to do that.
Okay.
For any of our villages. That we can do, and I've done some things with the school kids from time to time that way too.
Yeah, this is certainly an opportunity there. All right, so I'm going to switch. Janet, thank you for running through the 4 items that you all talked about and put some thoughtful ideas onto paper from your last meeting. I would like to see that getting integrated into this document so that it's this living document that we can continue to go back to and continue to improve and morph and edit. So I'll let you, the 3 of you, figure out offline the best way to do that. But
Okay.
I see a part of my role to help us continue to keep moving forward. So I'm just going to come back to a few things that we had from our last meeting. You'll all have to remind me the name of the gentleman from the select board who joined us last time.
Scott Hawkins.
Scott, thank you. Scott was going to look into what the different thresholds were relative to our being able to take on a project with a consultant or doing work under prevailing wages and all that. I seem to recall that we tasked him with getting us a little bit more information on that. Does everyone else remember that?
I don't remember that. But
Okay.
I'm
I
sure
wonder
that he would, if I contact him, I'm sure that he'd go forward with it.
Okay, we just wanted to make sure that we weren't in any violation of, how to take on a contract if there was somebody that we hired or brought on board to help us. And
because I didn't have that in my minutes either, but I trust that you.
okay, well, that's just my recollection. And
Yeah, no, I bet you're
I
right.
do a lot of things during the week. So, but I seem to remember that we had that discussion with him.
Well, one of the things, the mitigation money that's got about 10,000 in it,
11.
Mhm.
11,000 in it. That was a Board of Selectmen grant, and it went through a town meeting to be approved, but it was at their direction. And they pretty much have control of that. What he was gonna do was verify whether we could use that money for some of these planning expenses.
Okay, but I also thought that we wanted to know if we were doing work on the building, other than getting a couple of bids, which is a responsible thing to do. Were we triggering any other requirements for how the town needs to do things?
Hmm.
So that's just,
Any of the money that we use that's town funding, we do.
yeah, that's what I figured. But I think there's
The
a
money
there's
that's,
a threshold.
that mitigation money is subject to,
The select board.
no, the prevailing wage. And the same thing is true with the CPA money and of course, state grants too.
Mhm.
Anything that's got state money in it, significant town funding, yes.
Right, but can we spend up to a certain dollar value, like $50,000 without doing that?
10K.
The bidding requirement is up to about $50,000 now, yeah.
Okay,
Less than that, we still have to abide by various of the other regulations, but we don't
Okay.
necessarily have to go out to bid.
okay. I just wanted to make sure we were all clear and understanding and maybe even documenting what that process is, so that we're always doing it consistently and properly.
You know,
I
Dan,
I can work on that with the town administrator and the
oh, good.
select board secretary to get that,
Okay,
get a clear picture of that again.
I think
Well,
so.
why did has that threshold increased recently? Because when we had the sills repaired, we had to get estimates.
Oh, you still got to get estimates, but you don't
Yeah.
have to do it by public
the-
bidding.
I see.
Right.
The formal public bidding process that's regulated by law.
So what's the
Yes.
threshold for the,
Oh,
what's,
I think it's about 10,000 you got to have
yeah,
estimates.
that's what I was, okay. So that's where I got the 10,000.
Yeah,
Okay,
that number may have changed.
yeah, we'll get what the current levels are in the
Okay.
bidding law that relate to
Okay.
those things.
So, I am just gonna add below here. Okay, so you three are gonna get together and figure out how to update the document on Dropbox with things that you've already written or put together. We know that we need to finalize the inventory of resources that are in Bullard House, because we're gonna have to move them. We gotta figure out where they need to move and how they need to move, et cetera. And we talked about this last time. Has there been any thought or action or conversation on that?
we had a discussion on the 25th. But it was a pretty skeletal discussion.
Yeah,
The storage venues that are available to us, like a pod and the old fire
Yeah.
station, are not heated. So there are some items in our collection that we wouldn't want to be unheated. Isn't that right,
Right.
Barry?
Yep,
We thought maybe we could ask the select board if we could heat the second floor where there is still space for us to put items that would need some basic heat.
when you say a second floor of the storage building?
No,
of the old fire station.
Oh, old fire station. I'm sorry, I missed the connection there. Okay. Okay.
Dan, it is essential that we have everything out of the Bullard House? We can't tuck some things in some place while we work on another part of it?
I think that if we have artifacts and historic material in there, it's too big of a risk while
Yeah.
there's any sort of construction going on. And people in and out of the building,
Must.
I believe that we'll get a better overall project done. We know we're going to be needing to run some life safety wiring. We're going to be working on finishes. We're going to be working on structural repairs. There's going to be sawdust. There's going to be doors left open and moisture getting in. I just can't advocate for keeping things into the building. And I also believe that the inventory is important. And I don't think it should just fall on one person, which is why I had it on my list, because I want to figure out what's the best path. And with the money that you have, is there value in hiring somebody to help with this, so that it gets done in a timely fashion and it gets done with a consistency.
And which task are you talking about right now?
Talking about inventorying the resources, and
inventorying,
figuring
right.
out where they're going to go.
All right, the stuff that's in the house now, and we've been working hard at this for, oh gosh, almost 2 years now, moving stuff out, going through it,
Okay.
getting rid of some, etc. And we're continuing to do that. But the stuff that we intend to keep long-term, when we're ready, we can get it out and store it quickly.
Okay.
But I don't want to put it out in a pod somewhere and have it sit for 2 years before we actually start major construction.
Fair enough. And I guess the question is a pod a very likely scenario, or are there other places in town that could offer a longer term potential? Because I'm imagining, and you all correct me if I'm wrong, that some of that stuff's not going to be on display continuously.
That's right.
And with the very limited amount of space we have in Bullard House, are we going to want to store it on site or off site? I don't know the answer to that. I don't know what the items are, but that's why I'm bringing it up.
The other question that we're having to deal with, and it's such a slow process, is what can we deaccession? How much of what we have would we say is not really of value for the museum that we are?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm new at this, so I'm not sure
Right, and
at all what percentage of what we see piled up when we go into the Bullard House we're actually going to keep. I mean, can either of the other two of you estimate that?
Well, that's a constant thing, and as we go through stuff, sometimes we're canning some of it or passing it on.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think we have to be much more intentional about the process.
Yes, well, because remember, where I'm going with this is that you go to our list and we're trying to put together a schedule and a sequence of things that we need to do. So on there, if everything goes as planned, we are going to have a date where we're going to want it all cleared out.
Mm-hmm.
I want us to know how we're planning to accomplish that.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's, as I said, I don't think it should fall on to the three of you alone. I think we may need some assistance.
Mm-hmm.
And heat is great, to have things in the climate control. Humidity can also be a huge factor. So, some of these things may need to be in a place that's not just warm, and when the weather's cold, it may also need to be maintained at a reasonable relative humidity.
I think we really have some hard questions about what we still have that's not stored properly.
Right.
Because it will require, there's, I would say, a fair amount of that will require additional permanent storage if we are going to keep it.
Yeah, but also the idea, and it's why it's at the top of my list, is inventory resources. Listen, I go down to my basement, I open up a box looking for something that I know that I'm looking for, and I find 10 things I've forgotten that I have. right?
Yeah,
This happens to all of us. You know, our brains are overfilled with information. The second you get an inventory, build it into a database, and are able to sort it by a date or a significance or type, you know, furniture, art, memorabilia, whatever the categories are that you all feel is appropriate. I don't need to, you know, spoon feed them. Then we can start being strategic about not only, you know, understanding where they're stored, how they're cataloged, you know, having a photographic reference to it. Because what if something does happen? It's really important. You know, and I'm probably stating the obvious, but I just feel as though it needs to be formalized intentionally and cataloged, because and this is not saying anyone's dying instantly, but I tend to find that a small amount of people have a whole lot of knowledge.
Mhm.
And when they're not available, you start from scratch.
yep.
So let's not put ourselves into that situation. And again, this is one of those things that I want to go out and market. I want everyone to know, you know, yes, there's been a whole lot of really well-intentioned volunteers over the last number of years who have done a whole lot of things, but here's what we're doing now. You know, we're building a database. It's tied to everything that we have in our collection, and it's exciting. And then we can talk about that as a significant part of this process that's been checked off the list. So I'll get off my soapbox. But, and if you all disagree with something, spit it out. But again, I think my role is to help move us forward, and this is moving forward.
No, it needs to be it needs to be much more intentional, and
Yes,
it has been. Yeah.
And to that point, June, and I've said this a couple of times now, I don't think it has to be one of the three of you saying, I will do this. I think it just needs to be a decision of how do we envision it happening, and then let's get help or corral others to make it possible. But the best thing that we can do is say, you know, we want all of the items that are in these three places to be cataloged, photographed, put into a database, properly protected or wrapped if it needs to be. And we want this done by, you know, December 15th. Then I think
I'm gonna curse if I say much.
Dan, can
Well,
What's
we
I-
that?
have to, I mean, bare minimum, we need categories. I'm not sure we can itemize everything, but certainly categories and some kind of volume estimate. Maybe that's a level we can deal with to start with.
Yeah, I'm all for chunking it down, as long as we still keep moving it forward with the, you know, where it really needs to be. And again, you know, in the short term, it's getting things out of the way so we can do other projects physically to the building. In the long term, it's only going to serve us great, because it's remembering, you know, it's having a recall mechanism to know.
If you move to do all of this stuff, you're going to take a whole bunch of time that, and our time and our resources on it. And I don't think it has to be a complete project that's done before we can work on the house. We simply need to clean out the house. And as far as how we handle the stuff, and that is not really necessarily part of the house project.
I don't disagree, but I
Okay.
do think but I think it's ultimately important.
I don't mean it's not important. It's just that we won't have any time to spend on anything else. We do that.
I think, Barry, the point you're making
Yeah.
is something that I've observed too, and that is that it is a massive project. You know, some of what you're going through is a box, you know, 12 feet high, that you have to look at every single paper on it, to see if it's some ephemera that is of value. So I think we're talking about a very slow project, if it's done properly. So I kind of get what Barry's saying, because I think our chances with the people of the town to hang in there with us are going to decrease every year that we don't start doing something visible with the Bullard House. And their support, I mean, they've been wonderful so far, but at some point I can see it waning, and I can see some of the naysayers getting restless and starting to speak up at town meeting and try to steer people away from putting any more money into it. And I don't think I'm being unreasonable to say that. So I think one thing that we're trying to balance here is, how do we get moving on this soon enough that the town doesn't start to lose interest.
Okay, and I'm with you 100%,
Yeah.
which is why I want us to continue to move forward. But I'm going to pick up on one thing that Barry said, is that if we do this the right way right now, it's going to bog us down. I'm going to go back to my earlier comment. I don't think that this necessarily has to fall on the three of you. I think that three of you should look at yourselves as a steering committee that's making things happen and figuring out how are they going to get done. And with the money you've been given, if you have to spend $5,000 to have somebody take this on as a task with a deadline and with a prescriptive way to do it, I feel like that's going to be money well spent. That's my opinion.
Mhm.
You can all disagree, but I also think that in terms of demonstrating to the town that we're moving it forward, I think moving something forward like this requires the master plan, and this is an element of the master plan. And we're showing that we're doing it strategically and seriously. And as I said, this was me putting together the start of a document, and then it was for you all to pull it apart or embrace it, or both. And probably enough said on this. I think with any significant effort, there needs to be a significant plan, and you got to stick to the plan to make it happen. There are plenty of times when you pivot, but I agree with Barry. If we need to get something moved out quickly because something else needs to happen, yes, we'll certainly do that. But just kicking the can down the road on an important task like an inventory of historic resources is not going to serve anyone really well in the future. And I am trying to look forward enough to know how can we effectively, when we're ready to have an exhibit there, if we have right at our fingertips a catalog of everything we have, and we can start to strategize it instead of just, 2 or 3 people that say, oh, I remember we have this item. Oh, I remember we have this item. That's where I'm trying to get you to.
Yeah.
So
I
No.
really appreciate your comments, Dan.
And
I
you
think
don't let us-
it's
let
been
us-
hard for us to accept help with decision making, and I
Right.
think that we do need to steer, and we do need to accept help and not be afraid of it.
right.
we
Yeah,
need
I
to
think
do
it's
that.
too daunting of a task otherwise, June.
Mhm.
It's a small building. I agree with that. But to create the museum and to achieve the vision that you have for this building, I think is a big task.
Yes.
And I'm just trying to chunk it down to help us actually continue to move it forward. So before we run out of time, I do want to talk about some of the fun stuff. Last time I brought up the fact that I felt like we needed to document Bullard House carefully and build a 3D model so that we could start doing some planning and start creating some visionary materials. I think that helps to get people excited about it. So I was wondering if it isn't appropriate. Barry, I really want to see that, those documents that you said that you've got, that looked at some accessibility. I want to see how detailed they are and, if we can work with them. Because all I have at the moment is the little 8.5 by 11 that you all gave me.
Yes.
So.
Well, that wasn't a complete plan, but it was a plan for the accessibility and entrance in that whole business.
Correct. So what I wanted to propose is if we could sometime over the next week or so, just collect whatever plan and elevation whatever we have, as well as some of the old photographs. I'd like to start getting this into the Dropbox so that just even me spending a couple hours doing some sketching might breathe a little bit of life and excitement into our looking at the physical building.
Certainly.
Okay.
Right. So, like I said, that's sort of the fun thing that I wanted to throw out there. But I'd like to spend the next couple of minutes recapping and making sure that we have an action plan, right? So the first will be, when do we want to get together next? And I am going to be away that week of the 15th.
Okay, so that would mean that we would either need to meet at the end of next week or the week after. You'll be gone for a week, Dan, or more than that?
I will. So I have no problem if we want to schedule, an hour touch base next Friday, which is the 12th. It gives us a little bit more than a week, which is why I was trying to do the Friday. Otherwise, it would have to wait until the week of the 22nd.
Okay.
And
I think I have the closing on the 12th. I think I have a closing to go to on the 12th.
okay.
I just don't know for sure.
And I'm happy to say the same time, 11:30 next Thursday, which is the 11th, only if we think there's something meaningful that's going to get done between now and then that we want to talk through.
I feel like we're going to walk away from this meeting with a lot of things to do and think about and to get started on we've covered a lot of things for us to think about here. And maybe it's just as well not to rush right into the next meeting. What do you
I
think?
think that makes sense. I would say we ought to go to the end of the month.
So
Okay,
the 22nd,
so
when you're back?
well, I was going to say, why don't we just stick with the Thursday? Should we say 11:30 on Thursday, the 25th?
Okay,
The
August 25,
Yeah.
11:30.
Yeah.
Okay,
And in the meantime, we promised to work. We'll do stuff.
Okay.
We said we
Yeah.
will.
First of all, let's, and I'm going to my calendar, just making sure I put it in, because I know that June, it may take you a little while to send the link. And that's totally fine. All right, it's in my calendar. No one's getting graded on anything. Everyone's volunteering and doing the best they can, and I totally get it. So don't ever think otherwise. I would love to assemble photographs and whatever plans we have into one place, and then in an email, once we have them, let me know if I can help facilitate them getting scanned at my office. So that's task number one.
okay, and those plans should go to Harvard, to get the Harvard
Yeah.
office.
Yes, yeah, because I'll just, when I know when it's going to be, I'll arrange to have somebody who's aware of what they are and why we're getting them and what needs to be done.
Okay,
And obviously they will be protected and taken care of and then returned back to you.
Yeah, I mean, we should be able to get them there within a day or two.
Okay,
We
so.
just have to go grab them and take them up there.
is there
Okay.
anything else you can think of that should?
But
be
some of the
scanned?
old photographs would be great too. I'd like to start building a little bit of a
The
library.
photographs we will scan and put in the Dropbox.
Okay, great. So unless I've missed it, I didn't see anything where I was invited to join your Dropbox, and that's fine. I don't have to be, as long as you all are.
I was, I put in the email for Barry and for Janet. And then I sent an email this morning, just asking your permission. I don't know why I thought that was so important, but I'll I'll add you, Dan.
Okay, yeah, and that's, you know, you folks do what makes sense to you, but I just wanted a place where we could all share information
Good idea.
and keep it all in one place. And then if anyone's looking for something, you're not having to go out to the group to say, hey, did you have this or did I have this, whatever. All right, Barry, I think that the following up with town administrator or Scott or whatever on the, you know, requirements and thresholds for labor and bids and all that, I don't think that that's I think it's great to do it. To me, that's not holding up anything else at the moment.
Oh,
So,
that's no big problem. We deal with it from time to time anyway, so.
okay. And then I do like the idea of you three figuring out how to update the master document, either the vision or the master plan that's in the Dropbox. And, you know, I threw some notes on my copy here, but that's fine. I can always add them into your copy, but maybe for the next meeting, we can be opening up the one that is in the Dropbox. And then we're all at the same time editing one document that we all have access to. Make sense?
Good.
Okay. You'll put some thought into the inventory piece. And I think that covers what we talked about for the
Yeah.
time being. Oh, I'm sorry.
Updating the vision.
Yeah, and then, yeah, updating the vision. And then we also spoke about beginning to make that list of monies that you've taken in and expenditures that have gone out, and beginning a list for the database
Contacts.
of contacts.
Contacts,
And
yeah.
and I'm going to go backwards for a second. June, I liked your idea that maybe the place that you're starting with the inventory is to simply identify what the categories are. It's starting to chunk it down, but
That's,
Yeah,
That-
and
that's-
in some
it's-
sense of the volume.
right, right. So I think that's a great action list coming out of today. If I am coming across as too much of a taskmaster, tell me to shut up, but I'm trying to be helpful.
Yeah, no, this is all good.
Dan,
Really appreciate it.
sometimes I just wanted to, this is not something to talk about now. Sometime fairly soon down the road, it would put my mind at ease to have some kind of a timeline, because soon we're going to need to start thinking about applying for this grant that we're committed
Yep.
to do, because that's why they gave us the money. And I keep thinking, you know, it comes on so fast and it's so stretched out that soon we're really going to have to begin it. And I don't mind being the person that keeps track of that, but so if you can put that on the agenda for our next meeting, maybe or something.
Yeah, and it's one of our tasks right at the top of this list,
Oh, good.
Janet. So it's not forgotten. I'm gonna highlight it in red, bold at the moment. And I have sort of a graphic timeline that I use for a lot of things.
Oh, good.
I'm happy, if you want that to be my task for the next meeting, I'm happy to take a stab at that. I'll just be doing it a little bit early, because there's a bunch of things I would populate into it that I don't know the answers to, but I'm fine, you know, getting it started.
You may do that as long as you don't use your vacation time to do it.
No, I
Okay.
trust me,
All
I
right.
won't. Trust me, my wife won't let me.
Okay.
I think it's important to start that, because that, from my point of view, helps us to structure how we can best spend our time on some of the other things that are listed.
Right.
Right. Yeah, that's fine. I can do that. As I said, I'm going to be shooting in the dark a little bit on a few things that I would be building into it, but that's okay.
That's all right.
Just a rough idea, so we don't
Yep.
get behind the 8 ball on the.
Are all of you comfortable using Excel?
I can use it.
Yeah,
Okay. All right. I generally use Excel to build the schedule because it's easy to modify.
yeah, that would be good.
Okay, so I will take a stab at that before our meeting on the 25th.
Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome. I am gonna go grab some quick bite to eat before my 1 o'clock.
Oh, boy. All right.
Thank you so
go.
much, Dan.
All right,
Thank you.
take care, everyone.
You too.
Bye.
Okay, what time is it?
12:35.
Okay, so,
It's an hour later than that clock says.
okay.
Anybody, do we want,
Okay.
take on a motion or do we just want to adjourn?
But we went an hour and a half.
No,
Oh, no, we went an hour, just
hour,
over an hour,
yeah.
just about an hour. And that's fine.
Are we still recording? Yes, we are.
Other business, we should decide when we want to meet, to go to not, so we don't lose sight of our tasks. And the few things that we can do before that, we can
Do you
bring
want
to
to save
that
that?
meeting.
Do you want to save that for another meeting and not go through it now? Or
Uh,
if we're burned out, we should probably.
Did we set a monthly meeting for this month?
Yes. No, it's September.
We did not set a monthly meeting for this month.
That's right.
Okay.
Well,
So-
part of it was that I'm not, well, I might be here, yeah. Anyway, yeah, we didn't.
So we have a meeting on the 25th. That's all that I will schedule with Dan. So we need to meet before that.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking next week is, if I just knew when the closing was, I
Oh, I know. I
could
know.
just juggle everything. I could certainly meet Monday, because if they haven't let me know by now, we could meet Monday, but I don't know if you want to do that. You might want to wait a whole week.
Why not meet Monday?
All right, just let, I need to get my
Will you
calendar.
do that, Janet?
Can I just run and grab my calendar? I'll be right
Yep,
back. I
go
thought I
ahead.
had it
No
here.
rush.
Well, part of why I'm thinking it is because it'll help us to organize ourselves better to get more done before we deal with him.
Yeah, well, we
We
didn't,
may have another meeting in between.
we didn't, I tried to do everything that I was supposed to do.
I did some and I've worked on some other, but I'm not
Yeah,
any close to
you
anything.
need to do the milestones. I think that's,
Yeah, and the way I see that, instead of it, I mean, the milestones as we've got it is a list of things we've accomplished in various things, but it's not in chronological order. It's not, a variety of things. And I think I want to have it so that we have at least the major projects that we've done in chronological order with their cost and with their source of funding. Because that's going to help his understanding of funding to this point and why we talk about that kind of funding continuing, even in the midst of all of this big money stuff.
well, that's probably the most important thing, aside from finding those plans.
Well, the plans are there. I just have to go get them.
Okay.
They're not hidden. They're not lost or anything.
His Mogul, the Mogul office in Harvard is, I've been there once. And I can't remember where it
Well, it
is,
must be on their website.
but
We can
it
get
is,
the
yeah,
address.
yeah. But you need to,
Is it like on Route 110 somewhere, or is it on
could be,
back road somewhere?
no, it's pretty accessible.
Okay.
The, but you do need to
Oh, here it is.
send him an email and tell him you're ready, so that he can,
Oh,
so
okay.
that he can have someone at the office be there to accept, to know that they're supposed to scan them and to keep them aside for us. I would also, I mean, if you're willing, I would also, I don't know, we don't have any huge. Well, we do have a couple of new Bullard House Hurricane
Yep.
from Jane. I mean, I would let them scan them. I would add them to the plans and let those be scanned by them. I mean,
Well,
you can do it
I've
if you
got to
want.
check the size of them, but I mean, I can scan it on my computer.
Yeah, but it's,
We've already got a scan of the front view that was in the Houghton history.
we do.
We do. That's it. It's hanging in the wall out here.
Yeah, but where is it?
It's in, well, I know that I have it in my files in the computer in the other room here. I know it's there.
Well,
That one and the town hall one, because we used them when we were doing the National Register documents. And so I know I've got that one in there. And I've got
well,
there aren't any other good pictures of the
I
house.
was thinking there isn't much. Yeah.
There are that are old ones.
Excuse me.
There are here and there bits and pieces, but not a lot otherwise. And basically, that's going to be scan the photograph and then highlight it, a piece of it.
Well, whatever. I just
We'll do some of
want to
that.
reduce the workload when it can, when it makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah. But we don't have a lot. It's not like we've got 7 wonderful pictures to take up there and have just zip them off.
Do you want me to put in the Dropbox the documents that I gave him originally, which were the preservation plan and the
Oh, sure.
put those in the Dropbox?
Yeah.
Okay. I also had a question. I don't know if you guys read my email this morning, but
I did.
but what we have now, which is free but temporary through the 16th, is Dropbox Plus. But that costs money once the 16th is, once that's expired. That has 2 terabytes, which is a huge storage and comes with other
Yeah.
features. The free basic is only 2 gigabytes. And
Oh,
I wanted your opinion as to whether that was
It means nothing to me because I can't picture how many of these documents we'd be putting in there would add up to.
yeah. Well, my daughter thought we could get by with the free one.
Can we upgrade it later if we need to?
Yes,
Yeah,
but
so maybe
everybody,
start with the
all
free.
users have to pay a fee, and we'd
Yeah.
have to work that out. Maybe the society would pay, I don't know.
Well, what's the fee?
For Plus, it's I didn't write it down. For Plus, it's about $20 a month.
A month.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure every user is assessed that same amount.
Shall we just start with the,
So what we have now
Use by
is
starting with the
Plus, we have the Plus for till the 16th. And then it will revert to basic. And all that, but there's no limit on the number of users. And since I'm pretty sure that 2 gigabytes is big enough, at least for a while, then I think we should do it for free.
I
Yeah,
guess we do it for free. If we've got to pay something,
We
use
will.
our budget. We got $600
Right.
budget for the year.
right.
We've been spending it always on boxes and stuff, but that doesn't mean we can't spend it on something like this.
Okay, well then we'll just see how that goes.
I would say the free is probably all right because depending on what he develops, if he developed this three-dimensional thing may take a whole bunch of space. But we don't have piles of plans, piles of photographs of things that are going in there, so I would think that the free one will probably do it, and if the free one gets filled up, then we'll just opt for the bigger one
It's
at that
yeah,
time.
it's interesting because they don't really want you to have the free.
No,
You should see what we went through with in the chat to determine that we could get by.
mhm.
It was funny. Anyway, I'm glad I have my daughter because it would be hard, it would have been impossible for me to navigate. Because I gave her all the questions, but
Yeah.
still.
Well, you'll have to teach me how to navigate it because I am sitting on all my stuff because I don't know what to do in relation to the
Well,
Dropbox.
you Barry's already accepted. You have editing. You didn't do anything with the Dropbox?
No,
All right, well, I'll tell you what I did, and then we'll not belabor this any further. I gave accessibility to Barry and to you and to my daughter. And she does, we can just take her off at some point, but I just wanted her to help me for a while.
yes,
Okay.
And then I'm gonna add Dan.
Yeah.
I didn't before because I felt I needed to ask his permission, but that was probably stupid,
No,
since
I
he
think
had-
it was very respectful.
you know.
since it's mainly for us as a way to communicate with him, it would make sense. to-
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he needs to be there.
Yeah.
And I didn't,
And he, I think, was the one that suggested a Dropbox in the first place.
well, he said that would work. We could
Yeah.
use Google Docs too, but
Yeah.
Barry thought Dropbox would be more, simple for us.
Yeah, we need simple things. Um,
So
What-
we should go back and decide about, so is Monday too soon for anybody?
no,
Um,
Monday I have a meeting at 3, so as long as we could dodge that.
Monday morning.
Yeah,
Well, it has to be 48 hours, so.
Oh, okay, yes.
So it would have to, could you do
Yeah.
it at night, Janet, or does
Yes,
that make your
yes,
day
I
too
can-
long?
no, that would be
Yeah.
great.
Because we have a meeting Tuesday night.
Yeah.
So you want me to set it for, we could just meet in Memorial Hall or no, I guess we better meet here. Because it's
Well-
air conditioned.
The big thing is if we meet in person, we have to have somebody come and record it. If we meet on this, if we meet on the computer, the recording is done there and they don't have to come in here and record it.
Okay,
But it also means we've got to schedule it through that. So one is harder to schedule, the other is more cumbersome to actually do it.
well, my priority here is the ease of our communication.
Okay,
So if you think that getting together is easier for us to resolve some of these things,
probably.
then the town will just have to pay for somebody.
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. It's being paid for with money that all belongs to,
The cable.
yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if when we meet in
It's now. All right, Monday. Yeah, and what time do you want to do it? Monday is,
Well, not close to 3, because Janet has a
no,
meeting then.
well, as
Yeah,
I
it'd
say,
have to
10 or
be after
11.
dinner or something, after supper. I mean, I would say if it's either an evening meeting or
Oh,
a-
no, I'm sorry. You said after. You're going at 7 at night or something.
Yeah, because we
All
can't
right.
do it in the morning because it's not 48 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
So,
7:30.
7:30.
7:30, okay.
One thing I notice, and this may evolve as we get to actually meet in person more, it may change, but I felt like we allowed ourselves to, and this was probably very healthy, to just really ramble a little bit from, care. In other
Yeah.
words, a little less efficiency. And like I say, I think that was very important for us to be able to do. But it might be something that we can keep an eye on too, because somehow when we have these meetings, it isn't as much fun. So we tend to just stick to business. Because we got out at 10 last time, right?
Well, we did go on an awful long time that night, and we
Yeah.
should,
I'll
we
do
should try to
better.
keep ourselves to no more than 2 hours,
Yeah.
I'll do better at,
reminding ourselves of the time.
Well, you
yeah,
know,
and
the funny thing is when I listened to when I listened to it again and took notes, it didn't feel like there was a lot of rambling. So I may be full of baloney with that.
well, we did get off topic though.
Did we get off topic?
I mean, we
Yeah.
could have stopped the recording earlier and then just,
Yeah,
Yes.
but we
yes.
didn't. That's what and Barry was really aware of that, and I guess I was tired and just,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Well, plus you're polite and you don't like to cut people off. So
Do you want to have the 7:30 meeting here at the town offices?
7:30 at
I would.
2:27.
Yep, 7:30, Monday is the, what day is that? 8, August 8.
Yep, August 8th. I got it.
Okay, here.
was the 31st Sunday? Yes.
Yes.
It was,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
And you know, the other thing that I don't think we need to talk about now, because we'll just be dragging the meeting out, but is to really buckle down and solve this collection problem one way or the other. Because I think it's just going to drag us down if we don't have a plan, and if we don't figure out how to pick up the pace, you know. I think it's
What's going to be doable, and do we want help? I think
Mhm.
Barry has a hard time with that help thing. I'm not criticizing you, Barry. I'm just saying.
well, it's so hard. I mean, as a new person, I
One
find
of the
myself-
things that is not understood well is that I know a lot more about what's there. And there may be things I find that are a surprise, but I know more about what's there. And I don't have as much feeling of a pile of unknown stuff that as other people do. At the same time, that doesn't mean I consider it all to be well organized or anything like that. But in terms of what we've got and how we might use it, I've got a pretty good handle on that, even for stuff that's not listed and cataloged yet. I don't know. I at the same time, there are some things I'm more than I know we don't necessarily need to keep forever.
What would be your first recommendation, Barry? Would you recommend what June had said, that we sort by category and don't allow ourselves to get bogged down at looking and reading things, but we just say, oh, this goes in the thus so category. And then we felt that if we did have to pay for storage, we at least have some sense of order.
Well,
In which
it would be a way to get more done sooner.
To
And-
categorize.
Yeah, and I think that, I mean, you know, boxes of ephemera, 7 boxes of ephemera is 7 boxes of ephemera. You just don't need to know everything that's in them all.
Right.
But at the same time, I just see that I know how hard it is to go through and list stuff. And believe me, if you're talking about putting it in the computer, it's even harder because you've got to figure out what the computer wants you to call it.
Right.
There's a nomenclature that's not intuitive for me anyway.
Yeah, some of it's not intuitive. And at the same time, it's very useful, and it's fine that we've got that. If you've got a whole bunch of pictures to put in, it's fine. You can sit down and put in a whole bunch of pictures. But if you've got assorted general objects, well, then you've got to figure out what you call each one of them. And a dish may not be a dish. depending on whether it's a dish that you put flowers in or a dish that you eat off of.
Tableware.
Yeah, I mean, how you find your way to the name of what it is significant. And so,
It's almost like you need a little tutorial in just the nomenclature because it makes, The
more
rest-
than a little,
yeah.
yes.
So would you say that we agree on the idea that right now, instead of studying little things and reading little things and so on, that we would be in better position to know what our task is if we categorized and while the Billard
Physically
while the
categorized
Bullard
too.
house is available right now and empty, is a chance to sort, because you need space when you're sorting. You need one place to put this, one place to put that. And so maybe that makes it a very smart move while we've got the space to start just saying this box goes here. These are shoes, these are dresses, whatever you guys and I decide what the categories should be. And then number one, I think it would make us feel like we'd accomplished something.
Yeah.
And then
If
we
need
might say, these things don't
physical
need heat.
categories too.
I mean, do dishes need heat? I mean, some things don't need heat. So your big collection of boxes that have things that don't need heat, and you realize you don't have very many, then obviously that's not terribly helpful. If you had a lot of them, then it might be worth it to rent a pod. But so I'm going to propose that not as a motion, but I'm going to propose that maybe our next step when we work with the collection should be sorting and stacking them with their own kind.
Okay.
And I mean,
That's-
it's going
that
to be
would
hard
be-
because we're going to want to look at it and read it, and I'm terrible that way. But I
Also,
think I could force myself
in
to
that
just.
process, don't be afraid. If something is obviously not beneficial to keep, just put it outside and I'll take it away if I can.
And for me, what I would probably do is put it in the reject pile and let you guys have one more look at it until I
Well, of
feel.
course, one of the things that's a challenge in all this is the mannequins and the pots of mannequins. And there's a few pieces of that are pretty junky, and one of these days we may let them go. But most of that stuff, even if it's the homemade stuff, we want to keep because we really need it when we need an exhibit.
Yeah.
But we have to, it takes up space.
So maybe
And a
that
lot
could
of
be a
people look at
category.
that and say,
Well,
space, but we
I mean,
need it.
a mannequin could be a category. I mean, not a mannequin category, but a props for displaying things. We have.
Yes.
So you could have a props category, and it's very conceivable that the props don't need to be in a climate controlled
Well, I don't know.
environment. Does
I have a
mannequin-
feeling that the hands and the faces and those things that are painted might not do well if they don't have some control over their environment. But that doesn't mean that, and again, if it's a matter of for 3 months or 6 months, it might be okay. But I'm just scared to death they're gonna push us to take everything out of there, and then it's gonna be 3 years before we can
Right.
deal with the stuff.
well,
I think that's a
we know
reasonable.
what we have, at least in terms of categories, and we asterisk sensitive, the sensitive items, and then we know where they are when it comes time. We'll either have a heated space or we won't. We'll have we'll have to move it there.
Yeah.
But at least we'll be organized enough to do that. We won't have our hair on fire trying to figure out.
Do I put this?
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
ephemeral
the more that we've
rest?
got a more organized approach to the things that aren't already, the more that we can
Yeah.
deal with them quickly when the time comes.
Yeah, that's my point, yeah.
And
Yeah.
then, you know, once you've got them, once you've got all the, well, you've already got all the dresses in one place. Once you've got all the, you know, you fill in the blank in one place, it might even be easier to begin saying, okay, we got 100 of these. We don't need 100 of, you know, we can, I know you've already done this before, but, you know, and so maybe it'll also be easier to assign a quality and whether it's worth saving.
Well, you'll have
it's in a
I
pile
mean,
with
as a
all its
group,
own
we'll have a
kind.
better familiarity with redundancy. I mean,
Yeah.
Barry has, I mean, he has a familiarity with the redundancy, but I don't really consider myself knowing about
You're
that.
getting to know more about it than you did.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, yeah, that's true. Well, why
right.
don't we meet Monday, and then if our weather abates a little bit, perhaps we could set a time to work on the inventory.
Yeah,
Well,
we can work on that. Now, the other thing I
but
want to
wait,
say,
can I
and,
just say something? Are we working on the on inventorying things? Are we working on sorting things into big categories?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have used the word
Oh,
inventory
okay.
because it's definitely a lower class operation than that.
Okay.
Yeah,
That sounds just right for me.
yeah.
the fire station. I'd like us to run over there for a few minutes when we get done.
Okay.
Everybody else cleaning up their stuff has made a great deal of difference there.
Oh, good.
They haven't done much for us at this point, but maybe if we can get the highway to move the furniture that we don't want out of the space that we've worked in, we can, as June has already made a one overture about being able to move most or all of our stuff into the one room, and that would help everybody else a lot. And I think that's doable. But the other thing is that the other big room, they've organized that and taken some stuff out of there, and that's a great big space now.
Oh,
And they've also moved the buckets that were catching the water.
'cause they
So
did-
does that mean the roof is fixed? I don't know, but I'll find out.
I don't remember if there was no article that dealt with that at the meeting in May.
Yes, there was.
There was.
In the
Oh,
fall. It was voted in the fall, the
Oh,
money to fix
oh.
the roof.
Oh, okay.
But I've never had any idea whether it got done or not. But maybe it has now that since they moved the buckets. And Janet, you want to get up and see that sometime too.
Yeah, I would like to see it. Yeah.
At any rate, that's another issue that relates to that. And of course, if that building could only get the heat back on up to 50, 45 or 50 degrees, I could put more stuff there happily.
Yeah.
Maybe we should just approach the select board soon
Yeah,
about,
about that.
and is there any way they could give us an estimate about of what that would cost us?
Probably the one that can do that is June,
June.
but I don't know.
What task are you talking about? The fire?
If remember, we just threw out the thought that if we paid for heating the second floor,
Oh,
that perhaps we would be allowed to put things in that were sensitive, because it's still second floor and we need,
and
help
this is the
getting
fire
stuff.
station.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But it would mean that we could put a lot more stuff there. And the other big room is there. We could take some of the middle of that room and put some of the furniture. If we came to that, when we come to that. I'm not anxious to take the better furniture out of the house before I need to. But if we had a place that was heated to 50 degrees, I'd be a lot happier putting it there.
Okay.
I mean, a lot of that stuff is Empire furniture with veneer on it. And the more that you have a crazy environment, the more that's going to be a problem. At any rate,
On a slightly different subject, but not really. So could we say that sometime when the weather finally breaks, that we would go over to the boathouse and start the sorting process?
Yeah, why don't we,
We
let's see,
can't
we
say
meet with
right
Dan
now.
on the 25th. Maybe after the 15th,
All right.
we
Yep.
could, I could send you guys a message or call you and say, can we, do we have to schedule that?
Well, we can schedule it as a site visit.
Yeah.
And then we don't necessarily have to record it. And we can just go work and we'll produce a short set of minutes for it, that what we did, but it's not going to be a meeting that we're making decisions at. It's a work session.
It's a
Okay.
work session.
But we could try to, not next week, but the week after.
Yeah.
We could see if the weather will, I mean, we can go early in the morning, but it's still pretty hot there.
Yeah.
Upstairs.
Well, if we know we're going to go in there early in the morning, we can open it up the day before and have some windows open and stuff overnight so that we can change the air.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the problems. It's also shut up all the time.
Mhm.
I have got windows open in the attic now, but
Yeah, I saw that.
I don't, if we had some windows open on the second floor, we could get the air much better in there overnight.
Now, one other question about the Bullard House. Did you, do we know that the furnace has been cleaned, or
What do you mean?
the furnace
Oh, no,
still hasn't been cleaned?
I don't believe so. I haven't heard of it being,
All right,
and I
I'll send him a message.
need to get to Freddie and find out I don't know, there was something about it at one point, but I never got a thing that go on Tuesday, they're gonna be there. Kind of thing.
All right, well,
So
I'll follow it up.
I need to
and
find out what's
I'll
going
tell
on.
him that you might be asking him to. So we're gonna go, Barry and I are gonna go to the fire station for a brief visit, and
When I get
then
past
maybe
my-
on Monday we can,
when we get past this wedding, I'll be a normal person again, but
yeah, I'm sorry, it's such a burden.
well, I've got to go out there now and clean out the summer house, and I'm not looking forward to it. But
Oh, mercy.
I've got most of the yard fixed up, and they've got the big tent up. They came today. It's all very exciting. Big double peaked tent because they're
Yeah.
having 160 people.
Hmm.
Barry, this is a friend. Do you know the Gbos? Kevin Gbo.
Oh, this is the Gbo wedding?
This is
Oh,
the
okay.
Gbo wedding. That's going to be at our farm. And I've been working like a dog trying to get things
She's
looking
so hard.
decent.
Oh, okay.
And so that's one reason I'm a little I was a little less than prepared today
Yeah.
to talk about things. And you know what I was going to say, if either of you feels like you're having a little too much dumped on you, speak up, because I felt like today I was feeling like every other task that they came up with, they were putting on you, Barry. So, and then a lot of times it's June, just having these continual tasks all the time. And I want to do my share, but I don't want to do my share until after this wedding.
Oh, sure, that's all right.
And June doesn't really want to do her share till she gets that dang house taken care of.
Well, it keeps my mind off it, so I'm always,
Yeah.
I'm always willing to,
have a distraction.
yeah.
Yep.
Okay,
As
so
long as it doesn't hold you back from making progress on the other matter.
that's
Yeah.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't, all of it's good. When I work at the farm on the collection, on the family's collection, that's really, it just takes me away. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So,
And the family and its collection is another example of why I just get really annoyed with the idea of saying, oh, we should do this and have it all done real fast.
oh, yeah,
Yeah.
well, we
Good luck.
have adopted a different tack in the last few weeks, and that is making, well, I'm not, I guess I haven't made a list, but I'm protecting things, but not reading them. At least,
Oh,
you know, I'm,
yeah,
it's
not reading and
because
evaluating.
because we've been, what was, I forget what her name was, from, where was she from? New England, historic New England, who came to,
Oh, yeah, historic New England, right.
yeah, we had a representative from, Tim asked, because he has the family has a daguerreotype that needed to be
Donated.
donated. And,
Donated it to
and
the
so
state because it was,
she very generally got an introduction to the family's collections, and she advised us to just make an inventory, but not a detailed one, just format and category and by family, because there's a couple different families represented.
Oh, sure.
So we're on a different little, not an in-depth thing like we did with the Cordelia Diaries, which is, you know, more fun, but that's not what we need to do right now.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm off the track. So we're all set?
Ready to adjourn?
Yep.
yeah.
Move to adjourn?
Janet,
Oh, I second that.
second, and June. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.